Welcome to This Explainer. Look, today we're doing a total 180. We're stepping entirely away from the illusion of those dusty, quiet law books. We're leaving the isolated academic libraries behind and diving headfirst into the explosive blood and sweat reality of the Industrial Revolution. We're going to uncover what the law really is when it collides with the raw grit of human existence. So let's jump right into the core mystery here. We're mostly taught to think of the law as this sterile, totally neutral set of logical rules, right? Something handed down from on high. But today, we're revealing it as a living, breathing, and honestly, sometimes deeply oppressive social organism. Together, we'll look through the eyes of four legendary architects of society to figure out, are the rules governing our lives actually a weapon, a cage, a glue, or a tool? Act 1. The Sociological Turn, from Books to Blood and Sweat. For centuries, elite thinkers treated the law like a completely closed, flawless system of logic, what we call law in books, safely locked away in those quiet libraries. But then, as factories started pumping out thick black smoke and urban slums swelled with an entirely new working class, a massive, radical perspective emerged. The focus violently shifted to law in action. The core realization of this sociological turn was staggering. You literally cannot understand the rules of a society without deeply understanding the messy, dynamic, and brutal reality that actually forged them. Which brings us to a pretty dark question, doesn't it? If the law isn't an objective truth just falling from the sky, but something actively shaped by the world around it, well, who is doing the shaping? Whose interests does the law actually serve? Act 2. Karl Marx and the chains of class struggle. Okay, picture the deafening roar of a massive assembly line right next to a dead-quiet, opulent boardroom. Marx completely inverted all previous philosophies by arguing that material conditions, not abstract ideas, drive human history. At the absolute foundation of society is the base. That's the raw economic modes of production and ruthless class relations. And built entirely on top of that base is what Marx called the superstructure, our state, our religion, and, yep, our law. Marx's chilling reveal is that the economic base completely dictates that superstructure, meaning the law doesn't exist to serve universal justice, it's meticulously engineered to protect the property and the power of the ruling class. This brings us to a powerful realization straight out of the Communist Manifesto, really hammering home this concept of false consciousness. Marx argued that the law acts as this incredibly intricate illusion, completely disguising sheer exploitation as freedom. Think about it. The law tells a starving worker they are perfectly free to sign an employment contract, but that completely masks the brutal reality that they have absolutely no choice but to sell their labor just to survive. The law essentially dresses up elite interests as universal human rights, ensuring the exploited just quietly accept their chains. But Marx's ultimate vision actually ends with this radical, almost utopian prophecy. He firmly believed the severe internal contradictions of capitalism would inevitably cause it to collapse, giving birth to a classless society. And in a communist world, completely stripped of economic exploitation and property hoarding, there would be absolutely zero need for a coercive state. The law itself, since it's just an instrument of oppression, would simply wither away, blown away like dust in the wind, replaced entirely by voluntary cooperation. But what if Marx was only seeing part of the picture? What if the law isn't just a weapon wielded by the elite, but an inescapable cage for literally everyone? Let's totally shift the atmosphere for a second. Imagine walking out of the fiery heat of the factories and stepping into the cold, clinical, hypersymmetrical lines of massive filing cabinets and endless identical desks. Act 3. Max Weber and the Iron Cage. Max Weber observed this relentless, inescapable process sweeping across Western society. It moved with the slow, steady ticking of a massive clock. He called it the rationalization of society. He showed how human authority completely transformed over time. First, we followed traditional authority. Think blind loyalty to ancient kings and customs. Then charismatic authority, driven by the sheer personal magnetism of prophets or revolutionaries. But modern society evolved into something infinitely colder: legal rational authority. This is the faceless, impersonal rule of modern bureaucracy. Power doesn't come from a golden crown anymore. It comes from the sterile, written code. Weber mapped out how modern capitalism demands a very specific type of control, formally rational law. It's a logically consistent, mathematically gapless system of abstract rules. Honestly, think of it less like a human judge weighing right and wrong, and more like a giant slot machine of justice. You plug in the cold facts, pull the lever, and the law predictably spits out a verdict. entirely ignoring external morals, politics, or complex human emotion. It's all about efficiency over empathy. But man, this hyper-efficiency comes at a terrifying cost. Weber leaves us with this haunting paradox. This flawless, formally rational legal bureaucracy actually creates an iron cage. It becomes so unbelievably rigid, so completely rule-bound, that it's rendered utterly incapable of true, substantive fairness in individual cases. We literally find ourselves trapped in a freezing cold cage of our own brilliant design. So if the law is just a bloody weapon of the elite or this cold, impersonal cage, human society sounds incredibly fragile, right? Why haven't we just broken apart? Searching for a breath of fresh air here, let's look at an organic visual time-lapse. Imagine humanity growing, starting from a tiny, close-knit ancient village and rapidly expanding and intertwining into a massive, complex, breathing modern metropolis. Act 4. Emil Durkheim, the social glue. Durkheim steps in with a profoundly different view. He argued that the law isn't just conflict of cold bureaucracy, it's the most visible, tangible symbol of the social glue holding us all together. In simple, ancient societies, we had mechanical solidarity. Everyone was basically the same, so they used violent, repressive, penal law to punish anyone who offended the group's shared morals. But in modern, sprawling cities, we rely on organic solidarity. We are highly diverse, specialized individuals who deeply depend on each other. Because of that, our law evolved into civil, restitutive law, designed not to violently punish, but to restore delicate balances and repair our incredibly complex cooperative relationships. And here is Durkheim's most radical, totally counterintuitive hook. He says crime is actually normal. Seriously. He argued that crime isn't a failure or a sickness in society, it's a deeply necessary function. By witnessing and reacting collectively to a crime, a society is continuously redrawing and affirming its moral boundaries. Punishing a criminal is essentially a symbolic, unifying ritual that strengthens the social solidarity of everyone else watching. It reminds us of exactly who we are. Okay, so we've witnessed the brutal oppression of Marx, the freezing coldness of Weber, and the vast organic nature of Durkheim. But we desperately need some kind of pragmatic resolution here. If law so closely reflects our societal needs, can we consciously take control of this immense system? Can we design it to genuinely make human life better? Act 5. Roscoe Pound, the architect of social engineering. The atmosphere transforms one more time. Now imagine a master architect's drafting table. It's illuminated by glowing blueprints overlaid with a massive set of kinetic scales, striving for perfect equilibrium. American jurist Roscoe Pound reframes the law entirely for us. For him, it's neither a weapon nor a cage, nor a spontaneous organic reflection. It is a highly practical tool. He famously called this social engineering. The law's entire purpose is to actively balance competing interests, individual, public, and social, to maximize our human satisfaction while systematically minimizing social friction. To achieve this massive balancing act, Pound introduced jural postulates. Basically, these are the underlying unspoken expectations of living in a civilized society. Think of it like the baseline assumption that people won't commit intentional aggression against you, or that they'll actually honor their contracts. Picture the modern judge as that master engineer at the drafting table, actively applying these postulates to resolve messy conflicts, minimize human waste, and keep the immensely complex machinery of society humming smoothly. Outro. The law in action. As we wrap up today, let's launch into a fast-paced mental montage. Weave together the dark, smoke-filled factories of Marx, the relentlessly ticking clocks of Weber, the vast, breeding cities of Durkheim, and those precise, glowing blueprints of Pound. The law is so much more than just sterile text on a page. Is it Marx's weapon of elite domination? Is it Weber's iron cage of bureaucratic rationality? Is it Durkheim's essential glue of solidarity? Or is it Pound's pragmatic tool of engineering? The profound truth is, it is all of these things at once, and it completely shapes our every waking moment. I want to leave you with this final, sweeping thought. You simply cannot understand the law without understanding the complex, flawed, and brilliant human beings who live under it. So, look around you today. Look at the rules governing your workplace, your community, your daily life. Which architect's world are you really living in? Thanks for joining us on this explainer, and we'll see you next time.